welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Reviews. 3 reviews up this week. The first of which is, well, a mouthful. This is Where Angels Cry, Tears of the Fallen, Collector's Edition. Yes, that is the full title of the game. Now, I believe we addressed it last week, but to refresh for the actual review, the reason why this is called the Collector's Edition is this game was originally released to like casual portals. I don't know if people are familiar with these things anymore. Like, I mean, they were all over the place like 10 years ago.
Stuff like Newgrounds and Congregate?
More Congregate, more Big Fish.
Mm-hmm.
Than new, like, I don't think this game would have appeared on Newgrounds.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is for all of its trying to bill itself as a puzzle adventure game. I guess that is true in the literal sense, but we know this is a hidden object game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is actually the first hidden object game we've covered on the show. Like,
yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
They're not all just hidden objects, just mostly. But if you've ever seen one of those games I've seen a bunch of them that are like holiday themed somehow or another, where the whole point is to just like solve a bunch of puzzles to get to a holiday party or whatever the crap. The Game Grumps have done a couple for various holiday things.
Yeah, and I have a couple of hidden object games that are like adventure themed, and this is where this one falls into place. As in, it's got this whole elaborate story. You are the top secret agent of the Vatican in the 13th century, and you're a witch hunter. Like,
yeah, more or less, something like that.
Basically, you're playing as a member of the Spanish Inquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Hooray!
Although you're not Spanish, you're from the Vatican. You're going to Spain.
Right.
But yeah,
just couldn't resist the Monty Python reference.
Well, the reason why it's separation is because the first actual bad guy is the actual Spanish Inquisitor of the town that you get sent to.
Fair enough. But this is a game where you should expect the Spanish Inquisition because it comes from a Spanish developer. And it's like very local. You are on the isolated village of Pontenero. I'm not sure if the developer of the game comes from there, but given that there's an elaborate history of the island, it's safe to say that they are familiar with the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so this game, the Collector's Edition, what makes it a Collector's Edition is it's got a bonus story with 10 additional adventure scenarios, and once again, it's the notes for the Switch version here has a full strategy guide.
It does, in fact, have a full strategy guide.
Okay. So
I mean, it's not the fullest strategy guide, but it covers the whole general thing. It's a text list and some screenshots off to the side that you can pull up pretty much whenever you want to.
Fair enough. And the PC version, at least the Collector's Edition, was originally released all the way back in 2015. But the Switch version here released like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, January 16th, 2020. Yeah. That's owing up to like different publishers and the fact that the Switch didn't exist in 2015. Anyway, since we are talking about the Nintendo Switch version, Gollix will go into greater depth into the mechanics of the game and all that stuff.
So I can't say anything about the extra story after you beat the thing because I did not manage to complete it. There were a couple of puzzles. I mean, it has difficulty settings. You can set it so you have super fast recharge on your actual hints, which is different from the strategy guide, which I think you can do freely. But in general, yeah, it's the story actually seems interesting, but I had a bit of a hard time getting into it because of the controls. So anybody who knows this kind of game knows that they are optimized for not even keyboard and mouse, but generally just mouse controls.
Mm-hmm.
On the Switch, guess what they mapped to the mouse controls?
The Joy-Con?
Joy-Cons?
Right stick and right trigger.
Huh.
Those are like the only buttons that do anything.
You can't use the touchscreen on it?
I did not even try.
Mm.
You might be able, it's hard to click with a touchscreen, but you can't use any of the face buttons or anything to click. You have to use the right trigger. So on one hand, that's like user friendly, quote unquote, but on the other hand, it's very awkward.
I guess it really depends on how the Joy-Con fits in your hand, really.
Well, and there's also occasionally a mini game where you there's at least once a mini game where you have to like defend against a sword fight, where it puts up a circle on the screen and another circle moves around, and you have to get the cursor over and click on the big circle while the small circle that's moving around is inside it. And while I did manage to do that without too much difficulty, if it got much harder, I would have started running into cursor only moves so fast
Ooh.
territory. That's the biggest issue I have, is that the cursor just feels like it's not like super sluggish, but it's way slower than doing it with a mouse would have been. So honestly, I would probably recommend playing a non-Switch version of this if you're into this. But I mean, if you have a Switch and I guess not a PC and you want to try out this genre, I don't know if there are many other options, so whatever. Also, the graphics are a little bit weird, as is often the case for this kind of game, I think. But the general background is drawn and is pretty good, and a lot of the objects you click on are drawn and are pretty good. But things that actively move are CGI and lower quality, and NPCs that you talk to, they generally animate the faces and stuff by doing weird deformation things that are kind of uncanny, which, again, I don't think is actually even super uncommon for this kind of game, but it's not my thing. And the puzzles are very simple. It's find objects based on their silhouettes or names, rearrange the blocks to fit the certain order, do tangrams, with the tangrams being made kind of easier than actual tangrams because they only turn in 90-degree increments. So if there's something that's not 90 degrees on the design you're filling in, it kind of gives away what piece you're supposed to use for that, because the piece will be at not 90 degrees. I don't know if I described that well.
I think you did.
So yeah, it's not bad, but it's kind of simple. And I mean, honestly, while the story is interesting, it's still mostly you're playing it for walking around and picking out object puzzles. And as is also, I believe, typical for this kind of game, you kind of have to go one direction and do stuff and then backtrack and go another direction to do stuff and then backtrack and go back to the first thing with something you got from the second thing. So that even when you have like a hand wound that got bitten by a wolf and you're, want to get it disinfected, you still have to go like do the shuffle forward and backward and off to the other side like 3 times before you can actually get all of the components you need to not be infected. You need like bandages and herbs and water, and you can't actually get the water until you have the bandages and herbs, weirdly. So it's very specific about the order you do stuff in. As I think is also usual, once you solve a hidden object puzzle or something, you can't look at that screen again, basically, that sub-screen. So it keeps you from getting too confused about where you need to be looking. But also, if you're playing on normal or hard or the hardest difficulty, which is called challenge, sometimes you need to make sure you cursor over parts of the screen to make sure that you are not missing a part where the cursor turns into a, hey, you can go this way. Like, I was actually for like 10 minutes just now. Again, I did not actually play for super long, but for like 10 minutes I was trying to figure out which way to go, because I had opened a gate and there was a wolf behind it, and I thought I couldn't go that way because the wolf is bad news. But apparently, in addition to the thing that is right behind the wolf, there is also, on the same side of the gate as the wolf, a path off to the side that you can apparently safely traverse. So, you know, not necessarily the most clearest conveyance of which way is available to go. But again, there's a hint system that you can use if you get lost for too long. It just usually, because I like to think of myself as being decent at puzzles, I prefer not to use that if I don't have to. Do you guys have any other questions? It is voice acted mostly, and actually pretty decently generally.
Any notes on the music, if there is music?
There is music. It's background music. It's pretty generic, fitting for like solving puzzles and stuff. Vaguely period appropriate, since it's, you know, medievalish.
Right. Let's see.
There's a lot you can access. There apparently unlocks a rather good-sized library of videos and stuff as you play, and you can access the player's guide for the main menu, and there is a collectibles menu and some other things, but a lot of those are only accessible after you beat the main game, or both the main game and the extra story. So certainly seems to have a good amount of stuff, but I still think that unless you really want to be able to play it on the go or whatever, and even then that might be available on Android, I don't know. I don't think so, actually, but anyway, I would probably prefer to play it on the PC, honestly.
Well, I mean, this is usually with this kind of, you know, it's like either this or mobile, like.
Yeah, the stick and trigger was just a little bit awkward and a little bit slow for me.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised you didn't test it for the touchscreen.
There is a version of Where Angels Cry on Android.
Okay, so it's not your only option for portable either. Let's see.
Okay, so
I don't like getting fingerprints on my Switch's screen is the main thing.
I see. Like, well, so one of the biggest things in regards to Where Angels Cry Tears of the Fallen is the price discrepancy. So, how much is it on Android?
The full version is $6.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, the touchscreen does work. Although I think you still have to drag.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, if this thing doesn't have touchscreen support, then something went really wrong, because...
Yeah, so there's one thing that would help. I have styluses at my desk that I couldn't use where I was playing earlier.
Anyway, so the mobile version is $6. The PC version is $9 or $10, $9.99. And the Switch version is clocking in at a hefty $19.99, so $20 for this. I'm like, that's too much money. Like, you know, it's like, and I think this is the biggest price discrepancy we've encountered yet on the show. You know, it's like, you know, I don't know exactly what kind of resources went into porting the Switch. You know, I'm not sure how they justify that price.
I haven't seen anything. This game definitely feels like it's punching more in the $10 price range.
Yeah, I mean, it's even more damning when you can get the entire Where Angels Cry bundle for $13.48. So you know that's still like what, $7 less than just this on the Switch. Like, so I think it's pretty easy to say don't get this on the Nintendo Switch. just that price alone disqualifies it. When you can get it in portable form on your phone, and it's probably going to play about as well in terms of like touchscreen, or the PC. It's like the PC version. Having I played Hidden Objects games, and I know how Hidden Object games play on the PC. Yeah. I don't think this game is going to really break the mold in terms of that. So, it's like
if it's trying to break the mold, it's in having a different kind of story or something, not in dramatic interface changes or any of that stuff.
Yeah. So
yeah, keyboard is a little bit, or friggin' stylus or fingerprint is probably a little bit better than trying to do it with the cursor thing. But again, that wasn't the first thing that came to my mind when I booted up the game. And the Switch doesn't exactly come with a stylus, so I guess if you like having fingerprints or don't care, then more power to you. But
it's like I think overall it's like maybe a mild recommendation for say the mobile or PC version, and just avoid the Nintendo Switch version at this point. Maybe this will have a price drop. I don't know.
Yeah, if it's on super sale and you really want to play it on your Switch, then sure.
Yeah. Otherwise,
but I don't think this is the optimal format for this kind of game.
Yeah. Okay. So anything else that we want to say about this particular title?
I don't know. The story does seem interesting. I may play it some more, but if I do, I may pick it up on PC before I do that.
Fair enough. All right, so that'll about do it for Where Angels Cry, Tears of the Fallen, Collector's Edition. Be sure to tune in after the break as we will be reviewing Just Ignore Them.